This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
I'm Dr. Shini Somara in Romania to visit the most powerful laser in the world.
And I'm Emma Keeling on the River Thames in London to see a boat travelling the world using solar energy, battery power, wind and hydrogen.
When we think of lasers nowadays, we think of eye surgery and light shows and the stuff of science fiction. But we don't tend to think of lasers as providing answers to our understanding of everything. I'm Dr. Shini Somara and I'm at the École Polytechnique in Paris to meet a Nobel Prize-winning physicist whose research on lasers is helping to unravel the secrets of the universe. Professor Gerard Mourou won the Nobel Prize with his student Donna Strickland because of his work on lasers. Why is it so important to understand lasers?
Well, light is really, of course, an ingredient of our lifetime. I mean, without light, there is no life. We still don't know how light propagates. The light propagates in vacuum, and it's not like sound. The sound doesn't propagate in vacuums. And a vacuum is a building block, of what you are.
Sound can't travel through space or a vacuum because it needs to vibrate the particles it moves through. There are so few particles in space that this rocket creates no sound. Yet light can mysteriously travel through nothing. Lasers are highly orderly forms of light, and by firing a laser beam into a vacuum, scientists may have a chance of solving this mystery. But in order to do this, they need vast amounts of power.
We got a Nobel Prize with my student Donna Strickland because we came up with a way that we could amplify pulses to extremely high peak power. I mean, type of power is typically 1,000 times the power of all the power plants in the world. The pressure from our laser, when we focus all this power on a teeny tiny spot, is enormous, humongous. Like, type of pressure will be something like 10 million Eiffel Tower on the tip of your fingers. But the power is very short. And this is a trick we are using to get this phenomenal power by producing this energy over an extremely short amount of time.
To understand that, we need to remind ourselves about the difference between energy and power. Power is a function of energy divided by time. This is the insight that earned Professor Mourou and Donna Strickland a Nobel Prize, that we can use small amounts of energy to deliver vast amounts of power if we deliver that energy over very, very small amounts of time. This insight and the work that followed led Professor Mourou to initiate the creation of 3 major laser facilities across Eastern Europe. Collectively, they're known as the Extreme Light Infrastructure Project, or ELI, with installations in the Czech Republic, Hungary, and ELI Nuclear Physics just outside of Bucharest in Romania, which, when complete, will be home to the world's most powerful laser. Professor Nicolae Zamfir is its director. So a typical laser pointer is how many watts?
Yeah, probably less than 1 watt, yeah.
Fraction.
Yeah, fraction of a watt. Yeah.
How many
it's
watts is here?
1 million billions of watts.
So that's 100,000 million 100-watt light bulbs.
Correct. Here, the power is delivered in a very short time, which is 10 millions of a billions of a second, which is 10 femtosecond.
I didn't even learn about the femtosecond at school.
Correct. Neither me. Yeah.
So this is a new invention. So all of that power in fractions upon fractions of seconds happens right here.
Yeah.
So that is where the magic happens. The Extreme Light Infrastructure Nuclear Physics is a 33,000 square metre complex, still under construction, dedicated to the use of lasers in the study of nuclear physics. It's a kind of particle accelerator that will use the immense power of its lasers to conduct experiments formerly only possible in facilities like the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland.
All accelerators are based on electromagnets, huge electromagnets which generate particles with high energy. Yeah? If we can replace these big electromagnets with laser, we'll change our way to accelerate particles. It will be much cheaper and more effective. Instead to pour money in concrete, like a 27 kilometers large tunnel, so we don't spend billions of euros or dollars or Swiss francs on radio protection on a huge scale.
You know, in the movies, usually the bad guy just tries to find a big crystal and put some lasers on it and they will produce a laser beam. It's almost the same.
One day, I found myself in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean without energy, following a breakdown of the alternator and defective solar panels. That day, I decided that I had to find a solution. I imagined a clean and intelligent ship capable of optimizing the energy mix that nature makes available to us, equipped with an innovative energy system capable of producing and storing renewable energy through hydrogen. That day was born Energy Observer.
The shipping industry is one of the most polluting. 90% of trade is seaborne, creating 2 to 3% of the world's total greenhouse gas emissions. But this boat is on a 6-year mission around the world using solar, wind, hydrogen and battery power in an effort to prove that there is a greener way. I'm Emma Keeling here on the River Thames in London to see if the Energy Observer will be able to convince the maritime industry that what they're doing can be cleaned up.
The Energy Observer is 2 years into its journey and has visited 25 countries with 25 to go.
Official uniform?
London is the 47th stopover. The boat is a floating laboratory where the crew is experimenting with and refining green technologies.
Bonjour! How are you?
Can you hear something? Can you hear something?
Very quiet. Very quiet.
Very quiet.
I can't hear anything because it's running on renewable energy.
It is the new world of the mobility.
Former Merchant Navy officer Victorian Arusad is the founder and captain of the boat.
Since the beginning of the expedition, we have been able to test different technologies in different weather conditions.
Which of the technologies has outperformed your expectations?
We were nicely surprised by our solar panels as they turned out to be much more adaptable than we initially thought, reacting very well to difficult weather conditions, a lot of passage and changing temperatures. No sun, no wind. Not good for our system.
So hydrogen?
But we have hydrogen on board and battery.
The Energy Observer is sponsored by commercial interests and is also supported by the European Commission, UNESCO and IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency.
You see, here we have the 3 different kinds of solar panels that we have this year.
Louis Noel Viviers is the development manager.
Some more here on on all the vertical, areas available.
Yeah.
So you've got this new generation. They are very light, flexible. These one are the prototype that we have been designed with the National Solar Energy Institute. So they are double-faced. They take up to 30% of their power from behind.
So that you can get a reflection off the water and get power from there?
Absolutely. They get the reflection from the water and from the paint because the paint is slightly metallized, which means that they are the most efficient solar panels on the market today. They are not on the market, by the way. Not yet. Do you want to see the wings working?
I'd love to see the wings.
Okay.
The ocean wings are like sails and have been used in the America's Cup race. They complement the electric motors, improving efficiency. In reality, they work like an aeroplane wing, which provides lift, whereas these provide forward motion.
Are you excited about this technology?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
This kind of profile, it is twice as efficient as a standard sail.
So how does it work?
Fully automatically. You just don't do nothing. You just push on a button, it raises, it adjusts itself to the best angle, it creates you some apparent wings, so there is a virtuous circle. It creates its own speed, which creates some more wind, which creates some more speed, and then you just add some electricity if you need, and you've got a fabulous mix of energies. If you invest, let's say, 1 kilowatt in the motors, you get 5 or 6 kilowatts in return. We think we have saved about 40% of our energy since Tromsø in Norway, up to the Spitsberg, back to here. We just believe it is the future of the navigation because you can put them on any kind of boat.
On board, there are 4 tanks of hydrogen on either side and a set of 112 kilowatt lithium-ion batteries that feed the electric motors. Another set of 18 kilowatt batteries power the facilities. The 2 systems weigh about the same, but the hydrogen storage contains over 7 times more power than the batteries.
Altogether, we've got 62 kilos of hydrogen, which provide us 2 megawatts of energy. So with this energy, we can sail with no wind, with no sun, for about 3 days and 3 nights.
Why do you store the hydrogen up top?
So the storage for hydrogen today needs to be in an open space to have a natural ventilation.
Hydrogen is explosive, but these tanks are used on buses around the world, and the boat has its own safety features.
So what do you have in place to make sure that everything is safe?
First, we have many sensors everywhere. As soon as there is any problem or any abnormal pressure, for instance, it means that there is a risk that there is a leak. So automatically, it will eject all the hydrogen at more than 20 meters high, so that the hydrogen, even if it burns at the contact with the oxygen, it will not burn the wings, because they're brand new and we work a lot of them and we don't want to see them like a torch. So now let's have a look at the
Desalination.
desalination stage. Yeah.
Salt water into pure water.
Absolutely.
So many different little hidey holes in this place.
What's different about this desalination plant is the first step provides water for the crew, but there are 2 more steps.
And then we got the second and the third stages designed to produce the purest water as possible. And this water is then sent to the other hull on the other side to be electrolyzed.
Wow.
It is electrolyzed over there. Then it is sent back in the front compartment to be compressed. and then it is sent back again on the right hull to be put into the bottles, to be stored in the hydrogen bottles. An average efficiency of the system, which is today about 25%, and 25% from the first kilowatt from the sun to the last kilowatt to the propeller, it is the same efficiency as a diesel engine today.
The hydrogen is made on board by electrolysis, where an electric current is passed through water, producing hydrogen and oxygen.
So it was quite tricky because we don't have a lot of space here, and we had to be able to build up this factory able to produce 5 kilos of pure hydrogen every day. 5 kilos of pure hydrogen, it is the same as, let's say, 20 liters of pure gasoline every day.
The hydrogen is then fed into the fuel cell.
This looks like a giant science project. What are we looking at here?
That's just a fuel cell, very simple fuel cell.
All joking aside, a hydrogen fuel cell consists of 2 electrodes, an anode and a cathode, separated by a membrane. Hydrogen gas is supplied to one side and oxygen from the air supplies the other. Inside the anode, a platinum catalyst splits the hydrogen molecules into positive hydrogen ions and negatively charged electrons. The membrane allows the positively charged hydrogen to pass through, forcing the negative electrons along an external circuit. The movement around the circuit creates an electrical current and heat. Another catalyst in the cathode causes the negatively charged electrons and positively charged hydrogen ions to combine with the oxygen to form water.
Is this one of the things that when maritime industry people come on board, is this what they get excited about? Is this what they're most interested in?
Yeah, because there is no maintenance. There is absolutely no moving parts. Some of these fuel cells have been above 30,000 hours of work with no maintenance. There is no diesel engine in the world able to do this amount of hours. During the next winter, on the other hull, on this boat, we will put a new fuel cell, a new generation, much lighter one, and it will be about 100 kilowatts. Wow. Much more powerful than this one, but it is much smaller, compact. It's about 5 times the same power, half of the weight.
When I came out of the boat this morning, I thought, how on earth did they figure out what energy to use when? When do you store it? When does something get used? Does it happen overnight? Does it happen during the day? Well, all those decisions aren't actually made by the captain. They're made by a giant brain that's hidden underneath here that decides just how energy efficient this boat can be.
All the sources of energies actually are just managed by this big brain here, okay? This is the instant production of the hydro energy. If there is some current on the river, for instance, and the propellers go the other way around, they produce electricity too. This is the production of the wind turbines or the wings, and this is the production of the fuel cell.
What's the cleverest part of this hub, this brain, do you think?
So the computer will have the forecast of the light, of the sun, of the wind for the next 3 days, let's say, and it will say, okay, I have this amount of energy in hydrogen, I have this amount of energy in batteries, and I know that there will be a lot of sun tomorrow, but then I will have 3 days with just rain and heavy wind against me. So it will
plan a route.
Wow. For you to be the most efficient from point A to point B. The objective is to be able to provide a system that can be managed by any kind of crew. If we need to have full-time engineers on board, it's a waste of time. It has to be fully automatic. The idea is to convince the vast majority of the maritime community that it is simple and affordable, actually, and very safe.
The experimentation doesn't stop. Soon they hope to use a new generation fuel cell in the form of LOHC, liquid organic hydrogen carrier.
It's like gasoline, but it is loaded with hydrogen. And it is the same density, energetic density as the gasoline. But it works with the ambient temperature, with the ambient pressure. So it takes the same room as a gasoline tank. It will be a very big revolution.
Captain Eroussard sees the Energy Observer as part of a greater revolution.
I simply wanted to show that it is possible to navigate otherwise. And it is a much more effective way to educate politicians, citizens and industrialists with a real ship that can be tested and touched rather than a few promising slides of a keynote presentation showing a time in the future. The future must be now.
Life moves pretty fast. Ideas move at the speed of sound. Technology moves at the speed of light. If you don't filter out the noise, you might miss the details. We pay attention to the details because they matter, showing you a different perspective. See the difference.
How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself? If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice.
The world's currencies are more connected than ever before. The mechanisms that drive the economy are universal. Money moves markets. We explain these trends and show you how the cash in your pocket can have a wide-reaching effect. Because money makes the world go round. Global business.
The head of the high-power laser system at the Extreme Light Infrastructure Project near Bucharest in Romania is Dr. Ion Dankus. Ion, what's it like working here?
It's very exciting. You have to do all this cutting-edge science. You are working with all these very high-level technological tools, but in the same time, you are working with a team which is very high level. So you are all the time in a challenge of questioning and trying to find answers. You have the best people around you to work with and to ask them questions.
So I'm about to head into a clean scientific laboratory. I'm standing on sticky pads, which is going to collect the dust, because any kind of filaments in the room could scatter the laser. It's that precise. So I'm going to have to get suited up. So I'm going over to the clean side. So where are we going now?
We are going into the laser room.
Okay.
Where we have the high-power laser system.
What's all this?
These are for safety reasons, so no laser light can escape to this corridor.
Wow, so laser can even come through the doors?
Yes.
This is where the lasers are. This is not like lasers in the movies. Let me give you an idea of the scale of this place. There are 2 lasers here, one on each side, and they're each pulsing 10 petawatts. It's just amazing.
Everything is happening in vacuum. So all these other pipes which are metallic and all these vessels which are metallic are vacuum out. So all the air is taken out. Otherwise, the light is so intense that you will produce something that we call filamentation. So there are sparks in the air, like in a thunderstorm.
And that's why we had to be kitted out like this to make sure that we're not bringing additional particles into the space.
Exactly. The ground on which we are walking on, it's a special floor, specially designed for us to be able to walk without disturbing the laser. You can see that the laser is sitting on a floor which is lower, and we are walking on a false floor which is decoupled completely from this. in order for us to be able to jump here and nothing is happening on the laser.
So the laser will never feel our steps?
No. Everything is starting with a small pulse. Then that small pulse is amplified through these amplification arms. These parts here are lasers which are pumping the amplification crystals. So actually we are using laser to produce another laser.
So you're adding more lasers to the initial laser pulse?
Yeah. It almost looks like, you know, in the movies, usually the bad guy just tries to find a big crystal and put some lasers on it and they will produce a laser beam. It's almost the same. We have these lasers which are pumping a crystal, and in that crystal we amplify our main laser beam.
But one more step is required to achieve peak power.
So the laser which is produced inside these boxes is traveling towards this equipment here, which is compressing the beam into that small disk of light that I was talking about. The laser which is coming out, it's a disk of light of 0.5 meter diameter, and the thickness smaller than a thickness of a sheet of paper. We can produce 1 petawatt at repetition rate of 1 pulse per second, and 100 terawatt, which is 0.1 petawatt, at a repetition rate of 10 pulses per second. And this is very important when you do science, which requires a lot of statistics. So you are looking for an event for which the probability to happen is very low. Then you need a lot of pulses.
So basically it's key to be able to keep doing the same experiment over and over and over again.
Exactly.
All of these powerful laser experiments will generate a lot of radiation. Wow, so much concrete in here.
Yeah, actually it is. We need a lot of concrete, we need very thick shielding in order to shield us from the radiations produced during the interaction of the high-power laser pulse with matter. We produce a lot of types of radiation, from X-ray, gamma rays, accelerated electrons, protons and neutrons, and they can penetrate very thick amount of materials. So in order to shield us, we need very thick shielding.
So what's this?
This is the door of one of the experimental areas. After we are sure that nobody is inside, and we have several systems in order to be sure of that, we can close the doors, and after we take this key off, the experiment can begin.
The first experiments will begin later this year. A 100 terawatt beam may enable new methods for high-resolution medical imaging using laser-based X-ray sources. 1 petawatt pulses fired at gas or thin foil targets will demonstrate new imaging methods for industry. Later experiments could also influence the nuclear energy industry by using the lasers to expand on earlier research that reduced the half-life of radioactive particles.
We can radically shorten the time, of its radioactivity, from millions of years to years.
And another experiment will target the vacuum itself, searching for the elusive particles of dark matter and dark energy, which make up 95% of the universe.
We could, in fact, recreate what's going on in cosmos, in stars, in black holes.
And what will that tell us?
Everything, of what you are, and where we are coming from, and where we are going.
All the process happens in our production plant, but first what we need to do is to get the CO2. And the CO2 comes from this geothermal power plant, which is only 700 meters away, which is using volcanic activity, steam that is formed by the volcanoes underneath our feet, as a power source.